Hey folks, welcome back. So I thought I'd do a real quick video here and just share my thoughts on perhaps a couple other ideas for who psychedelics may not be a good fit for, in addition to the basics and the obvious. So for anyone who is perhaps totally new to psychedelics, has not done any looking into it, not done any research on it, what you may not know yet, that most of us who are kind of literate in this field already know, is that generally psychedelics are contraindicated for certain health conditions like heart conditions. And obviously for people who come from backgrounds, family backgrounds or personal backgrounds of having any sort of psychotic disorders. So this would be things like schizophrenia, for example, et cetera, right? So folks who come from these backgrounds, it is strongly recommended that you do not take psychedelics and that they can be a permanently life-altering event or experience for the worse, right? So that's kind of the common talking point. But who else may psychedelics not be a good fit for, or psychedelic therapy not be a good fit for? And this is really what I want to answer in this video, because I think it's really important for people to be self-aware of whether this path is going to really work for you before you dive in, because it can, by definition, be intense, overwhelming, powerful, emotionally challenging, way deeper than you expect. And so who's not going to jive with that is kind of what I want to answer here. So I would say in general, the first kind of person who's probably not going to be a good fit for psychedelics is someone who might self-identify as a control freak, or think of themselves as someone who likes and needs to be in control and sees no problem with that. Right. So it's one thing if you're a bit of a control freak and you're someone who is self-aware that maybe this is coming from an unhealthy place in yourself, or is a bit of a dysfunctional pattern, and it's something you want to look at or challenge yourself around. For someone like that, I think psychedelics could end up being very beneficial and helpful, because they will, by their very nature, invite you to let go of control. Right? But for someone who desperately needs that sense of control in order to feel okay, to feel right, and feels kind of justified around that, or like that's a positive, or like that's okay, and they don't see how that perhaps is harming them or harming their relationships in their life, psychedelics for a personality like that can be incredibly threatening and overwhelming and too much and terrifying and stressful, and just it can just be quite frankly a really uncomfortable, disappointing, not fun experience. So if that's you, I'd strongly recommend that you avoid psychedelics. And if you want to do some sort of healing work, I would just recommend going to like a more regular type of therapy approach. The other type of person that I think psychedelics is generally not going to be good for is someone who has an aversion to looking at root causes in their life, right? So if you're someone who only wants to look at kind of the surface level of your issues, and you don't really want to think deeply or don't want to look at the past, this kind of a thing, psychedelics also may not be a good fit for you, because they will churn up memories and thoughts and insights and inquiry into the past that you may not be prepared for, or that you may not really welcome if it happens, right? So if you're someone who doesn't want to know why you are the way you are, or how you got to be the way you are, or what's shaping the way you see and think and feel, if you're not inquisitive, if you're not curious, if you have no need to know, or if you're kind of terrified at the notion of looking inwardly like that, I would advise against psychedelics. I would say they're probably not for you, because they do tend to steer your attention in that kind of a direction. And while I think there's a lot of fertile ground for healing with that kind of line of thinking, I understand that for everyone, it's not for everyone. You know, that for some people that can be really too much, that can be scary, that can feel like really inappropriate or unsafe. And so for someone who's kind of organized like that, again, I don't think psychedelics are really the way to go. If you're someone who can look at your past, who is open-minded, who is curious, who wants to see, who wants to know, who wants to be more deeply connected to yourself, and who is willing to tolerate confusion, a bit of discomfort, some negative emotions, some challenging insights that really turn everything you thought you knew about yourself, sideways and on its ear, that kind of a thing, then psychedelics may be a really helpful, useful tool for self-inquiry, for personal growth, for personal development, for accessing profound, big positive resource states, and all the things you kind of hear about and read about. But just wanted to kind of put that out there because it doesn't really get mentioned. And occasionally, if you're in the psychedelic community long enough and you're around enough people doing them, you will see these types, who don't want to know or who need to remain in control, take psychedelics for, against their, what should be fairly obvious, probably because they think it's fun, it's a party drug, this kind of thing. And then these types tend to have really difficult experiences. So anyways, I just thought I'd share, put that out there just in case you're kind of curious about psychedelics, you've stumbled upon my channel and you're kind of wondering, well, yeah, who aren't these good for? That would be two types. Okay. Much love. Thanks for watching. More videos on the way soon. Take care.